Welcome to How to Teach Right Start Math Level E. My name is Eve Hullett, and here's some webinar information. Make sure your sound is muted, and if you have any questions, you can use the chat box. Okay, placement guidelines. Who belongs in Level E? If your child knows their multiplication facts to 100, they can multiply a 3-digit number by a 1-digit number, and they know their division facts, including remainders, and they understand basic fractions. For example, I have 3/4, how much more do I need to make 1? Just basic understanding of fractions, then E is the right place for them. Okay, what about D? What if you're not sure they're ready for E? Should I put them in D? If really they are struggling and don't understand how to multiply a 3-digit number by another number, division, it just does not make sense to them. And again, one little note on knowing their multiplication tables or knowing their division facts. The National Council for Teachers of Mathematics has established a rule of basically if you can answer in 2 to 3 seconds, then that's considered knowing a fact. So for example, if you ask your daughter, what is 24 divided by 6? And so she thinks for a minute, 4. Okay, so she's going through some sort of process. She understands division, but maybe not it's not fast yet. We don't want to hold her back into level D and say she doesn't know her division. She does understand the concept of division, and then the next years is where she's going to be working on, having that fast recognition of the facts. So, but if division is just really confusing to her or your son, fractions are shaky, they're very, very confusing, just basic idea of fractions, then we want to stay in D. If you have any question, you can actually go online under resources, and you can see sample pages and objectives for each level. And so the objectives for level D are here, and so you can look at the arithmetic concepts. You really don't need to worry about the problem solving, time and money measurement, geometry sections. Really focus in on the arithmetic when you're determining a level. And so you can see here the addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and fraction sections, and see, yeah, my child does understand these, or no, we really do need to do D. These are the concepts she needs or he needs to cover. Okay. So what about level F? What if you look at E's placement, you're like, I think they got that. Should my child go into level F? Well, if they understand how to add and subtract fractions, they can convert between improper and mixed fractions, and they can factor numbers into primes, they're ready for F. Also, do they understand simple percents and simple decimals? We're going to handle multiplying and dividing decimals in F, but if they understand the concept of a decimal, then we're ready to go on. Okay, what if you have an older child and you're realizing, oh, okay, we're missing some of these concepts. What do we do? Do we just keep trudging forward? Well, let's look at this. First thing is you can't build on what your child doesn't know. We really need to teach the child's level. So if their grade level is 7th grade, but they're really on, you're looking and you're like, they're really on a 5th grade math level, then that's where we need to teach math. And that's really the opportunity we have as homeschoolers, is to teach to our child's level. And so we want to take advantage of that. Okay, so let's just map it out. Okay, 12 years old. So we have a 6th grader who's 12 years old, and we're looking and we're like, you know what? Level E is really the next step for them mathematically. Okay, so we'll do level E this year. So that means in 7th grade, we do level F, 8th grade, level G, 9th grade, algebra. That's right on level. You're fine. Okay, so what if we have a 14-year-old? Okay, so we have a 14-year-old who's an 8th grader, and, okay, we really need to put them in level E. Are they going to end up behind? What's this going to look like? Well, let's see. So the next year, 9th grade, we do level F. We're going to suggest skipping level G and go into algebra as a 10th grader. And they're just 1 year, quote, behind, but they're ready for algebra. Now, if you're really interested, you could do level G in your spare time, but realistically, there is very little spare time. So if you go level E, level F, and then into algebra, you're going to give them that preparation where algebra will make sense. Okay, so what do you need? Okay, level E is the level you need for your child. What do you need? You need to get your book bundle. This is your lesson, worksheets, and any appendix pages. The appendix pages are in the back of the lessons, but we've just made copies of those already for you, so you have everything you need to start the year. But you have extra copies of those in the back of your lesson book if you should ever need them. And then you need your math set. And so this is going to have your card game book, your card games, Abacus, fraction charts, geometry shapes, balance, everything that you need to teach level E. And this is really all of our levels through level F is going to be here in this math set. Okay, so what are the objectives for E? Again, at the beginning of your lesson book and also online, you can see the objectives. And so there's this page. And so it tells you the enumeration, addition, multiplication, problem solving, all the way down to the geometry concepts that'll be covered. And then you can use this chart through the year to see where you're heading and check off, what you've covered. The beginning of every lesson book has about 5 pages that are really helpful. They talk about things about how Dr. Cotter developed this program, some of her general thoughts on teaching mathematics. There are just some really helpful tips here. Generally, how the lessons are set up. These 5 pages, we recommend you read at least once a year. And so the first time you'll read them, be like, okay, that's interesting, that's helpful. And then the next time you say, oh, okay. And each time it'll just start to make more sense. But they are really there to help you at the beginning of your book. Okay, table of contents. This is what it looks like here. We have review lessons. The first 7 lessons are just reviewing our basic arithmetic and how to use the abacus, just making sure we got our place value and everything else going. So we're just going to kind of get the cobwebs brushed off and kind of look at a new way of maybe looking at math for the first time here in lessons 1 through 7. There's going to be review and games along the way, and then also assessments. We have our geometry lessons, more review and games. Enrichment lessons are optional, but they are very cool. And then we go through. There's 140 lessons in total, and then at the very end, we will review what concepts have been covered for the year and have a final assessment. Okay, how are the lessons formatted? In your lesson book, you'll open up, and each lesson is formatted on 2 pages that open up in a spread before you. There's no turning of pages. Everything you need will be right there on these 2 pages for that lesson. Up here at the top left, you'll see your objectives. Here is where you'll find out, okay, what is the goal of this lesson? What are we shooting for here? The materials, what do I need to get out? What manipulatives do I need? Am I going to have a worksheet today? Whatever activities that you're going to be doing to present the lesson with your child and work through this are going to be here on the left. And then over on the right are any explanations or tips. What's the research behind this? Why are we doing this? What are some tips for kids who are gifted? What are tips with kids who are struggling? Just any kind of extra information that Dr. Cotter thought would be helpful to you as a teacher will be over here on the right-hand side. Every lesson will start with a warm-up. And so we'll go ahead and tell you exactly what you can say, and then the answers are right there in brackets for you. So it is all prepared and laid out very well. We'll step through today. We're becoming more familiar with our fraction chart and finding the fractions closest to 0, 1/2, or 1. And so here we're using our fraction chart. It has a picture of the manipulatives and how to use them. And you're just going to walk through this with your child. And so you step through your activities, has a little tip, and then we're going on to a game to practice the concept we've been talking about. And then a little explanation or tip over here to the right. In conclusion, this section at the end of the lessons, it might be a summary of the day's lesson or an expansion just to challenge your child to to think about whatever concept we've been looking at a little bit deeper. The lessons are designed to be done one per day, about 30-45 minutes per lesson. And the card games are the review and practice. There's 140 lessons for the year. They include review lessons, enrichment lessons, quarterly assessments, and a final assessments. Okay, worksheets. So here's an example of a worksheet. The worksheets are designed to be done independently. And this is a time for your child to put into practice whatever concept you've been going over. And math is a written language, and so this is part of that process. There's about a worksheet a day at this level. And then card games. Card games are the review and practice. The worksheets are where you're going to be fleshing out that concept, working on your problem-solving skills, but then your card games will be your main review and practice to get quicker at whatever idea you've been working on. One more note about the worksheets is here on the copyright section. You will see it says the publisher hereby grants permission to reproduce a worksheet for a single child's use only. This means if you have twins, triplets, you'll need to buy another set of worksheets for additional children. One thing that some people do is get the e-workbook. And so if you have multiple children, this can be a really good option. And you have it on your computer, and you can print off as a PDF file as much as you need. And so it can be shared for your whole household. Okay, so let's look at the lessons. When we're talking about the fractions, for example, this one, the lesson's goal is to become very familiar with the fractions that add up to 1. Okay, and we're going to use this fraction chart here. Some of you may be familiar with pie charts and other ways of looking at fractions, but this linear way of lining up our fractions is so helpful. It just unveils how the fractions relate to each other. So for example, here we have 1 whole, and then we have 1 whole divided into 2 equal sections. 1 divided into 2 equal sections, 1/2. 1 divided into 3 equal sections. 1 divided into 4 equal sections. 1/5 all the way down, 1/10. And so we can see easily, okay, why is a 9th smaller than a 5th? I thought 9 was bigger than 5. No, I can see here that I'm splitting it into 9 pieces. I'm going to need more of them. And so it's just visually, it's easy to see that. It's easy to see the pattern that they get smaller, which is why we include things like 7ths here. Otherwise, the pattern is lost. We can see here, okay, well, how many 4ths are in a whole? If I'm not sure, I can count them right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. How many 4ths are in a half? I can see it right here. There's 2 4ths and a half. And so we're going to learn how to understand fractions, how to go from improper to proper fractions, how to add fractions, all of that informally with our fraction chart, and we actually have a set of fraction pieces that we can use. We'll do that informally first so the kids really have a concept of how fractions relate to each other, and then the lessons will guide you to guide them in discovering that algorithm. And so it just helps everything to just make sense instead of it being this magical thing that some math people get, but the rest of us, are just all so confused about. And so you're just going to step through that process, and it's really amazing. And parents come out understanding fractions better after this as well. Okay, so we're learning about fractions that total 1, and so we've introduced this concept. We're kind of understanding it, but we need to practice it to really get it ingrained. And so we're going to play a game to do that. So this game, Fractions to 1, is found in the card game book that comes in your math set. And so normally when you play this game, you'd have a set of cards and each child would have a set of cards. But for simplicity, we're just going to play one card at a time to see how this works. So the goal of this particular game is to make a row of fraction cards that add up to 1. And if you do, you get to take that row. Okay, so I decide out of my hand I want to play a 4th. So I'm going to start a new row. So you look and you decide you want to play a 7/8. If I put 7/8 with a 4th, that's going to be more than 1. So I'm going to start a new row. Half, let's see. I can put that with a 4th and it's still not 1 yet. See, 2/3. And again, you're leaving your fraction chart out so your child can look and see and be building that visual memory. 2/3. I'm going to have to start a new row. Okay, an 1/8. Hey, I made 1. Okay, we get to keep that one. Okay, you turn over an 1/8. I could start a new row, but wait. I can put that up there. That's not 1 yet. Whoever has the next 1/8 is going to get a nice stack of 4 cards, though. So there's a little strategy there as well. 2/5, start a new row. 1/5. Oh, I can put that in that row. An 1/8. Hey! Got to keep all 4 of those cards. And so you keep playing, and at the end, compare stacks. Whoever says the biggest stack wins. And what you're doing here is a worksheet. Only it's in a social setting, and it's fun. So what is the big deal with games? Games are to math the way books are to reading. They're going to provide that interesting repetition that we need to build an automatic response. So when we're teaching our little ones to read, we don't show them flashcards and worksheets to practice. We read to them, we read with them, we have them read books so that they can see how helpful it is to learn to read. And they can have practice in context of a story and something that's interesting. It's the same thing with games. Games provides that application for the new information they've been learning. And again, they're not off all by themselves. It's an opportunity for them to practice, to have self-correction, for you to see what they're understanding and what they might be confused on right there in the context of a game. And that's something they can do with you, with an older sibling who, the older sibling's getting some review. They just think that they're helping their younger sibling playing games, but they're actually getting review. With dad or anyone else that you can draw in. This is something that you can easily implement to just solidify their understanding. Okay, so 15 minutes of a game equals 1 worksheet. The games will be identified in the lesson that go best with that concept. And so what if you want extra review on something that's not in that lesson? You're noticing, you know what, I think we need to review our multiplication. You have the card game book. And so go to the table of contents, look at multiplication, and you have tons of games, starting with the simplest to more challenging games. And so all of that resources right there, and the games are an excellent and efficient way for your kids to practice and review. You can replay games you've already played, and again, you have your card game book. You can also keep a game log. This is in the front of your lesson book. Or the worksheet book, I'm sorry. And so here you can record, on October 3rd, we played 1, and Oakley and Ruth played together. Or any other notes you want to note about that game, you can note here in your game log. Okay, I did want to make a little note about the Abacus, which may be new for some of you. It's the only Abacus that has 2 sides. And it's going to provide your kids with a visual and tactile way to understand quantities, strategies, and their mathematical operations. So real quick, with our little ones, when we're learning how to enter quantities, we'll say, show me 3, and they show you 3 fingers, and they say, show me 3 on the Abacus, 3. Now, if they're counting 1, 2, 3, we're going to want to nudge it over and help them to see that it's 3 all at once. And here's a symbol for 3. And so we really want the kids to see that this is 3, and this just happens to be the symbol that's 3. Okay, we have 7. Our hands line up with our beads, 5 on the left, 5 blue beads on the left, 2 fingers on the right, 2 yellow beads on the right. So we have 7. And there's no counting. You can see 5 and 2 is 7. And there's our symbol for 7. And then when we're adding, when we're starting out, we have 4 and 3 more. Well, I've seen that before. That's 7. Again, no counting. They're understanding how their numbers work together, and everything's based off of 5 and 10. Okay, some strategies. Here's just some simple strategies with addition. 9 plus 5. Okay, so I have 9 on the first wire, 5 on the second wire. So this is called completing the 10. So 9 is so close to 10. What if I take one from the 5 and give it to the 9? So ready, set, trade. Oh, what's 10 and 4? It's 14. Okay, let's see that again. 9 and 7. Could trade these 2 beads to complete the 10. And it's 10 and 6, or 16. Another strategy is the 2-5 strategy, and this one's very cool. 8 plus 6, and you can actually see it right there. You see the 2 sets of 5 beads, 5 blue beads. It's 10, and 4 more. It's 14. Okay, 7 and 5. I mean, you can just see it. You see 10 and 2. 12. Okay, multiplication, 6 times 4. 6 taken 4 times. So we have 5, 10, sorry. We have our 2 sets of 5 beads is 10, and 10 more is 20, and then our 4 yellow, 24. 5 times 7. We've got a little more beads here. 10, 20, 30, and 5 more, 35. 7 times 7, by this time the kids see that 5 times 5 is 25, 35, 45, 4 more is 49. Now 9 times 3, there's an interesting way to look at 9 times 3 and kind of see some of the properties with 9. And what we can do is we can actually look at all 3 wires here. So how many beads are on all 3 wires? There's 10 on each. There's 30 beads minus these 3 yellow. It's 27. Okay, so the abacus is a physical manipulative, and we need a physical manipulative to develop a mental image. And so the kids are going to start with a real abacus, where they physically are looking at it, and then eventually they're going to be moving to an imaginary abacus, where they see the abacus, but they're not touching it. They're just moving it mentally, or they're imagining abacus and they might move their finger. And then finally, they have the quantities mentally in their mind that they can adjust. Now, in Level E, if you're new to Level E, we're going to introduce these concepts of thinking in terms of quantities, but it's something that that your child will grow with and get used to, and may just be, and just introduce it as, okay, this is another way to look at some of these operations and kind of what's been going on behind the operations that you've been learning these other years. This is just kind of another cool way of looking at that, and give them some time to get used to thinking in terms of quantities. The teacher's manual will suggest when to consider a mental abacus, and if your kid is struggling with the concept, then use the abacus. They're not going to go off to college with it. They may need a little more time just to build that visual memory there. And some concepts just come quickly, but others take a little more time. Okay, fraction chart. Fraction chart is very similar with abacus. We start with a real fraction chart, and then imaginary. Instead of, we have a set of broken pieces that we can manipulate and move all around. Well, now we just look at the whole fraction chart and kind of jog our memory. Oh yeah, that's how they line up. That's what I could do. And then finally mentally, where they have an idea, that, oh yeah, there's 2/4 and a half. There's 2/8 and a fourth, and they can kind of see how those pieces relate to each other. If your child is struggling or counting again, use the chart. Okay, well, let's look at these lessons. There are also, you'll notice, times where we get out our drawing board and T-square and one of our triangles. These are our drawing board lessons, and they are so cool. I am so thankful that Dr. Cotter has integrated geometry since kindergarten. They really give the students a practical use for their mathematics. They're going to help the kids learn informal geometry. So they're understanding ideas of angles and bisecting angles and different sorts of geometry, shapes, all through their drawing board. Area, perimeter. It's going to develop coordination, and this does improve with practice. And one more note, the drawing board, the tools they're using are real, And they really are the primer for some very practical, real applications that your child will get into in high school, and then depending on their career choice in college as well. Okay, review and practice. So every so many lessons, you'll see a section called Review and Games. And so this will consist of 2 versions of a worksheet for your child, along with suggested games that reinforce the concepts you've been working on in that unit. And so there's some different ways you can use this. These are really tools for you. You can use one as a review and go on, or maybe use one as a review. You notice, we need a little bit more work on something, have them practice. You could use it one as a review and another as a quiz, depending if that's motivating to your child or not. You could have first quiz, again, if they do well, you just move on, or you notice, you know what, I think we need to revisit that and do it a second time. If that ever happens, that's really easy to say, honey, no big deal. That's why there's 2 versions. And again, the games are included here. So this can be assigned as kind of a little homework, and then you spend the lesson time playing games with your child. Okay, so they're really tools for you however it suits your child's learning style and your family setup. Okay, corrections. If there's any corrections that we find, there's a typo or something that makes something clearer, it's going to be posted online for you. So you can come here to RightStartMath.com, come to the Resources tab, pull down, you'll see Teaching Support. Click on there. And then if you come down the page, you'll see Corrections. Under Corrections, you'll see all the different levels. We're going to come down to E. And here's our corrections page. So right here it tells you the lesson or worksheet, the date that the change was made, and the correction or change that was made to it. Up here at the top, it says when the most recent update was. If you look at your copyright page, they'll have a print date. If your date is after May 19th, 2017, you have all of the changes in it. If not, you can go ahead and look at the change date and see if something needs to be corrected or if what you were wondering about was there. Other website treasures. Okay, here under resources as well are pre-recorded webinars. And so you are listening to one of them right now. And so right here under how to teach levels A through G, that's where level E will be. And you're going to see all these things, all these topics, lots of good information here you'll want to check out. Another thing is the blogs. And so under our blog, again, lots of different helpful topics on what to do if you have multiple kids, struggling learners, game ideas, blogs that have really focused on certain lessons, geometry concepts, all kinds of cool stuff is in here. And so this is definitely a resource to check out. Okay, some quick tips on teaching. Your role is really more as a questioner than an explainer, especially at this level. We really want to encourage our kids towards independent thinking and problem solving. And so we want to guide them with questions rather than doing the work for them. And this may require biting your tongue, singing the ABC silently in your head while they have time to think and process. And it's good for them to be comfortable with having time to think. And also we want to hear from them. How did you figure that out? And so there'll be questions in the lesson book. And so that's really part of the teaching. The best motivation for your kids is intrinsic, and we want to encourage that. We want to encourage their love for learning, their curiosity, their desire to know and to do their best. And so that's actually going to be a lot more effective than any sort of external rewards. External rewards actually can end up undermining that intrinsic motivation. It's critically important that our kids like math. And so we just want to encourage that the whole time we are teaching with them. Okay, contact us. If you have any questions, suggestions, whatever, contact us. On the back of every single book, you'll see our website, our phone numbers, email addresses. We want to hear from you. And so all that information is right there. Just call us and we'll see what we can do to help you. All right. You guys have been great, and I hope you all have a good afternoon. Thank you. Bye-bye.